Okay. Okay, I think we're live. Am I live? Okay, just making sure. What is up, guys? Andrew here, and welcome to Comicbooker. All things comics from a creator. This is pardon me if I'm a little nervous. This is my first live stream. I'm super excited about it. I'm also super nervous. But I figured we should start off with some drawing. So let's see if I can get this to work. Whoop. Give me a second. Oh no. Un momento. I'm having some technical issues here. This is a great way to start your first live stream. Okay. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to mirror my iPad onto the live stream so that you guys can see what I'm up to. And if I did it right, here we go. That should be working. All right. So let's get started. Hey, what's up, Silicon Art Stations? Okay, so let's get started. Rocky start, but we'll push on, all right? I'm gonna start with a largish canvas. We're gonna do, let's just do 4K. Let's do something like that, right? Nope, not that. That's too long. Let's do something like this guy over here. And I'm gonna start drawing. Hey, R. Allison, welcome, guys, and thank you for being patient with me. This is my first time. I'm so excited. I've always wanted to do this. It actually took me like a whole year and a half of doing YouTube before I got the ability to live stream. So I'm so happy that I get to finally do this. So yeah. So I've opened up a new canvas here on Procreate, and what I'm doing is choosing my brush. Currently, my go-to is Inkbox. It's a brush set. It's actually a Photoshop brush set from Kyle T. Webster. You guys might know Kyle T. Webster because he is like, one of those master brush makers. He he shot up to fame sometime in the early 2000s, making all these like amazing brushes. Not just for Photoshop, he made brushes for Clip Studio. Back then it was called Mango Studio. Um, and a oh, is it not working? Give me a sec. Crap. Okay, it's not working again. Okay, let me restart this. And let me see if I can get this to work again. Okay, can everyone hear me? Damn it. Okay. I hope I can get this back up for you guys. I'm so sorry. Well, at least there's a little drama. First live stream, right? Okay, let's see. And I'm gonna screen mirror. Let's do that again. All right, seems to be working. And let's get that back on. Okay, here we go. So, where was I? Okay. R. Allison, thank you so much for the comment. I really appreciate it. So here we are. This is the brush that I was talking about. It's Inkbox by Kyle T. Webster. And it is a fantastic brush set. Honestly, I think he made it for comic book artists. And these days, well, okay, little background. Kyle T. Webster got so popular back then that Adobe basically snapped him up and hired him to make brushes for them exclusively. So these days, he only makes Photoshop brushes. And it's a bit of a shame. He actually made a brush set for Procreate for Earth Day, which I wasn't able to get because I missed it. I feel super sad about that. But if any of you guys have that brush set, please send it to me. Please message me or something because no one can get it anymore. But thankfully, I think sometime in 2017 or 2018, Procreate introduced support for ABR brush files. And ABR brush files are the native brush format of Photoshop. So, yeah, these are Kyle's Photoshop brushes, and Procreate supports them super well. And I'm super happy because they retain a lot of the same properties. I don't know. I feel like, I mean, I've used this in Photoshop. I feel like they're exactly the same. So, whatever magic, like programming magic, the Procreate team did to make this happen, it translates really well as a brush set. So I am drawing without thinking. Honestly, I have no idea what I'm drawing right now. Let's start over. And maybe since it's the first stream, maybe I should just draw Superman. Because, he's the first superhero, right? And what I'm doing is building out the major forms first. The way I like to build out figures, I like to think of big broad shapes to begin with. So, nothing too specific, hopefully. Just like squares, circles, oblongs. And kind of feel out the major forms. I think the most important thing to keep your, to keep your eye on, especially at this super early stage, is gesture, which is, kind of how the figure is flowing, and proportion, which is the relative sizes of the elements to each other. So, the idea of like the head is this big versus like the chest is this big. Like Superman, I think of him as like a big guy. I know there are like the Kurt Swan version of him and the Gary Frank version of him. They tend to be like more lithe, more Christopher Reeve inspired. But the Superman in my head that I think of as the classic super dude is big and burly. He's a super dad. He's like the dad of all the superheroes. So yeah. Hello, Sir Joshington. Welcome. And hi, Kyle Miller and Mojo Jojo. Thank you so much for joining me this rainy Saturday afternoon here in New York. It was actually hailing a while ago, which was pretty crazy. You could hear like the tak 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 against the window. Uh, Makes you want to just have a coffee and chill. Thank God for the indoors, right? So I've scaled down the figure a little bit because this is a thing I always do when I'm drawing. I even when I'm like drawing from life, I usually tend to make the model's feet drift off the edge of the canvas, which is no good. I mean, you want, especially like a full figure thing, you want your figure to fit in the canvas well. So that's like a proportion thing. Thankfully, it's so much easier to do edits on that in Procreate. You just kind of you hit this arrow button here, and suddenly you're in this free transform mode, and you can do all sorts of really quick transformations with that. And here's I mean, more or less, my figure is blocked out, fully right now. Um, and I want to check if the proportions are okay. Sometimes it's weird. You don't know if it's leaning too much to one side or another. So what I like to do is I do a four-finger tap and bring up this menu here, this radial menu, and I like to flip it horizontally. And this allows me to see that, oh, okay, the figure's leaning a bit too much this way. Um, there are some things to correct, so I'm gonna do those corrections before I start going in for details. Um, yeah, I hope some of you guys who are watching right now, my hope is you guys have a sketchbook, or you've broken out your iPads or something and you're drawing along. Honestly, when I watch these live streams, my favorite thing to do is to just have a sketchbook out and just to start drawing along with the artist on screen. It makes me feel like there's a community. It makes me feel like I'm not alone. Yeah, I think art making is such a, especially like comics, it's such a lonely profession. We tend to have to spend all day in our rooms, um, all alone with the piece of work we're working on, and no human interaction, no socialization. So I'd like to get some of that, secondhand off of YouTube. That's why I like the live streams. That's why I wanted to do this live stream for the longest time. This looks pretty good, I think. More or less. I think the eyes are gonna be like that, sort of like looking off a bit. So we'll go with this for now. All right, here's our Superman overall gesture figure. The reason he's having this sort of like clenched look is I want like chains or machinery, maybe machinery, sort of flying out from him, like he's breaking free of some sort of restraint. So that's what the pose is about. Like he's flexing, Awesome. Sir Joshington is laying out a comics page while watching this. Great. Great. And I am gonna start going into some detail work. So what I'm doing is I'm doing a two-finger tap on my main drawing layer, and that brings you to the opacity menu. So I'm just lowering the opacity. It doesn't have to be, that I don't need much detail from there. So I'm doing it like 11, 13%. And now I'm going to start going into some detail work. We are 15 minutes into the stream, and I think we're making good progress so far. I have this thing where I always keep the time flatter myself. Like I try. It's a little bit of an obsession because when I draw, I have a bit of like time blindness. I don't know. You guys probably experience this too, especially if you love drawing. Like you start a drawing and then snap, kind of like a sudden jump cut in a film. Like suddenly 2 hours have passed and you have a drawing in front of you, and you're like, whoa, how did that happen? So I like to keep an eye on the clock. It's also partly because I've spent the last 5 years in a fine art school, with a lot of live drawing happening there. So the way the life drawing classes tend to be structured, and this is like, old school, is they tend to be structured in 20-minute poses so that the model can rest for 5 minutes between those 20-minute poses. And the poses can range from like 20 minutes fully to as low as like 30 seconds. And so especially for like the short pose sessions, you'll have a model who is listening to a monitor, a person who has a timer, and they're actively making sure that the pose is happening. And I think that's like a good discipline. Like if you're keeping an eye on the time, you're the type of person. It's a good discipline to bring into comics and to commercial art in general, because we have such a heavily deadline oriented industry. Like you gotta, I think the head's too big. Is it too big? Nah, it's okay. Is it too big? I doubt. I have such doubt. I'm gonna keep it and just keep pushing forward. But yeah, we have such a deadline focused industry that knowing how long you're gonna take to draw something really is an asset. Imagine you have a job with a client and the client asks you how long you're gonna take to draw this one thing. You want to be able to give a reasonable estimate. And if you're like on the super advanced level, maybe you wanna know like speeds that you have in your arsenal. For example, like what level of drawing does your stuff look like if you had to draw it in 10 minutes versus, like crunch time, versus what would it look like if you had to draw it in an hour? And then what if you had 4 hours? Because some of the best commercial artists have like a repertoire of styles. They have like a quick and loose style if they need it, and then they have a more finely rendered, beautiful, like well wrought style when they know they have like a lot of time to work things out. It's good to have both. The other thing I like to think about is like, what process do you have for your comics? What I mean by that is, do you have a process that is that starts off broadly enough that if you had to work loose and you didn't have a lot of time to render at the end, it would still look okay. Like it would still be passable. I think of that a lot. Like, how would my art look in a deadline crunch? Because you've seen it, like in comics, it's a brutal world, and especially like event comics. I keep thinking of like I don't know if you guys are familiar. There was this DC event called Final Crisis, and it had two major artists on it. One was J.G. Jones, who's this a watercolorist who uses a lot of photo references, and Doug Mankey, um, who is this, I guess, more classical comic book artist who tends to draw from imagination and like build figures without too much reference. Um, and you could see towards the end, like as the deadline started to pile up and they were losing time, and they had less and less of leeway to make beautiful rendered artworks. You could see their art start to degrade, and it's interesting what that looks like when that degradation sets in. What happens when your art is stripped down to its bare minimum, to its bare essentials. What's left behind? In my case, it would look, I guess, something like that, very broad, but hopefully, even at its simplest form, you have enough proportion, you have enough anatomy, and it looks aight. Enough to be functional and to tell the story. In comics especially, the most important thing is that you tell the story. Like, it's not about pretty pictures, it's about telling a believable, important story. Let me look at questions really quick. How many layers can you get on a 24 by 17 inch 300 dpi file? Let's try that really quick. Let's do a little break and create a new file. So here I am, and we're gonna go to inches, right? Whoops. And we're gonna do a 24 by 17 inch 300 dpi. Canvas. Okay, Sebastian Varela. So it's 47 layers. Pretty good, right? Just for reference of people, this is the 2021 M1 iPad Pro, 1 terabyte with 16 gigabytes of RAM. I am super duper in love with it right now. Whoop. What is happening? Give me a sec. All right, wait. While I sort out my streaming problems yet again. Okay. All right, let's go back to it. I guess that's what we have for now. Let's see if I can. I do not know how that happened. It's like it scaled out for a second. Okay. Yikes. All right, I'm gonna move this out like that and move this out like that, and hopefully it looks good still. Do you guys still see my screen? I'm gonna keep drawing. All right. Question from Diablo. Does Procreate use all the 16 gigabytes of RAM, or is it restricted to a certain RAM size? Good question. I do not know for sure. My sense is that iPad OS is gonna reserve a certain amount of RAM for itself, regardless. So Procreate is never gonna get all 16 gigabytes of RAM to itself, because the OS needs a certain amount. And let's say that's 3 gigabytes, right? Or it's probably less, because if you think about how much RAM is in some of the lower end iPads, Some of them have only 3 gigs of RAM. So I would think iPad OS is like at most 2, which means Procreate at the worst is working with like 1 gig of RAM. I don't know. This is all like spitballing. I don't know what I'm talking about. We should talk to like Procreate directly. Um, but I will say, anecdotally, right? Um, it feels like I'm getting a ton of RAM. It feels like I got the huge upgrade to 16 gigs. And I think that's because, I'm coming from a 4 gigabyte RAM configuration. So it's just, it's massive. It's a massive change. That's 4 times the amount of RAM. And while the translation's not gonna be 1-to-1, factoring in however much RAM iPad OS 14 was using on the old version, and then now on the new version, that's still like at least 10 gigs of headroom that's being given over to Procreate, which I completely love. I'm totally in the honeymoon phase with this iPad, guys. I don't know. You guys probably experienced this where you get a new device and you're like, you just want to use it all the time. You want to draw with it. You want to, you go to bed and you read stuff on it and it's with you the whole day and you just can't live without it. I am at that point with this thing. I can't live without it right now. It's my number one most important device. Okay, so here's Superman with his naked hands. I don't think he has gloves, so I'm doing this from memory. I don't really have reference in front of me, guys. Mostly because I didn't know what I was going to be drawing for this stream. This is kind of going unscripted, right? From R. Allison, just downloaded some of the brushes from the Kyle person you mentioned. Some of these are actually pretty cool. Yes, please do check out Kyle T. Webster. His brushes are fantastic. What was interesting is when he burst onto the scene, I think the dominant mode of thinking with regards to brushes was that they had to behave like stamps. They were just replicating flatly, across the whole canvas. And what Kyle did was he created a bit of error margin in the brush, because if you think about how traditional materials work in real life, it doesn't 100% do what you want it to do. There's always like a micro amount of error in there, and that's what makes it exciting, because the artist has to work against the friction of that. Brushes with little bits of like splayed hairs on the side, pencils that slowly lose their sharpness as you use them. That traditional media is prone to entropy, and what you really want to fight in any digital medium is things looking too clean, because when it's too clean you lose the humanity that I don't know about you guys, but I enjoy so much about artwork. Like, I like seeing a human person's hand in it. Let me see. Give me a sec. Preferences, project canvas. There we go. I'm gonna stop projecting the canvas. Hopefully that. Nope, it's still doing the project canvas thing. Oh well. I promise by the next live stream, I'm gonna figure this thing out. I did some tests actually earlier today, and it seemed to be working well, but gosh, I can't believe it. I will work it out by the next time. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, so Kyle T. Webster's brushes are great because they have a bit of grit and roughness to them. When it's too clean, it doesn't feel real. It doesn't feel believable. And yeah, I know that there are vector art styles that, trade in cleanliness. But also, have you guys noticed, like, when you look at a lot of those vector things, the corporate art styles that you see a lot in like Google or like Zoom seminars and stuff like that, it feels a little cold to me, you know? It feels a little, it's too clean. So yeah, anyway, all this to say that I like it when my art is a little rough. I like it when the lines aren't perfect. I like it when you have just, a sense that a person drew this and not a robot. His cape's just kind of hanging down there. You know what I really like? Superman with a short cape. Because, when I think of what Superman was based on, which is these Samson-like circus performers, they always had these like tiny, tiny capes on the back. Oh, it makes me laugh. And, I think if you're doing Superman right, like, he should be a little corny. Batman's all about being like super duper cool, and super fresh. He's what we all want to be. He's the billionaire playboy, doesn't have to worry about money. He has all the cars and the gadgets and all that stuff. Meanwhile, Superman has a real job. He grew up in the farm. He has to go to work. Um, Superman's a little corny, which makes me happy. I like that about him. We should all be a little corny and not take ourselves too seriously, right? Okay, I think how far are we into the stream? So it's 3:30. So 30 minutes in, I have a good, well, semi decent like line art piece now. Let's double check if this is still showing. All right. Whoops. And we've had an error again. Okay, there. Okay, here we are. I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not using that software again. this iPad streaming software called APowerSoft that I thought would work great. I watched a YouTube video on how to do this stuff, and that's what was recommended to me, but it is not reading as fast as it should. But yeah, so 30 minutes in, I have a decent piece of, I mean, decent in the sense that I think it's enough to guide a later stage of work. So I think we should move on to colors now. Let's take out the underdrawing and see what it looks like. I think that's okay. And if anyone's curious, I'm using Inkbox. I'm using the Inkbox set, and I'm using Too Smooth to Be Forgotten, which is a really good brush. It's like, one of my favorites. I think I'm gonna put some spot blacks in here just to get it a little more grounded before I go on with colors. I have this bad habit sometimes of not putting enough shadows in my drawings, and it makes it feel super airy and like ephemeral. And it's good to have these. I know spot blacks tend to hide detail, and we all love to show off that we can draw detail in our drawings, but it adds a lot of grounding. It makes it feel solid. And especially with this is Superman, you want him to feel solid. You want him to feel like he's powered by the sun and, just a big mass of impossible superhuman muscle. So, okay. That looks like it's ready to go. Okay, next I'm gonna Charlie Harper. Some use Zoom to stream the iPad. Yeah, I should probably use Zoom. I actually have Zoom down here on the iPad. I've used it to jump into classes and stuff like that. Um, that might be a better thing. I just don't like the watermark, you know? This big zoom at the bottom. Cove, gonna buy an iPad 12.9 on Tuesday to get into digital art. Oh my god, congratulations. I'm so excited for you. Um, it can be overwhelming at the start, but like just relish it when you get your new device. You know, watch all the videos, do all the tutorials, figure out what your thing can do, what your device can do. It's gonna be a blast. Okay, hopefully you guys are getting a good feed of this. A power soft seems to be working. Okay. All right. I guess I have to keep checking A power soft to make sure the drawing shows up. Which is super annoying. But we'll do our best. Okay, I'm gonna put it here. Okay. So now let's get into colors, right? We have like 20 minutes left. I think there's enough time. I'm gonna put like a very light blue in the background like that, just to give it a little bit of texture. I don't know if you guys can see that on the stream. And then I'm gonna go for, I gotta show you guys my other favorite brush set right now, which is Max Pack Watercolor. So this is Max U Lickney. I think his name is Max U Lickney. Max U Watercolor Max Pack. Just Google that. It's, oh my god, this is like my favorite color right now. And let me go for a. This is I made a couple of brush sets here, so let's make this the default. I think that's gonna be good for Superman. And actually I want to use the cards mode because I really like that. So we'll start with cyan blue. Usually when you're doing watercolors, you want to make sure that you go from light to dark. That's one of the most important things. And so I'm going as light as I can. And what I'm going to try to do is leave some areas kind of light so that, you know, it feels like I'm going to let the paper shine through in certain areas so that it feels like the light is shining on it. So that's what's going on. Let's erase some of this. Whoops. Uh-oh. I think I'm drawing on... Okay, I guess, guys, I'm working on one layer. All right, let's put that there. I'm going to do darker cyan blue. And we're going to put that down there. I'm going to get this here and then here. And just kind of scooch in some shadows here with the darker blue. Make it feel really spandexy, you know. Pink Lamborghini has a question. Are they free? I assume you're talking about the brush packs. Sadly, Max Pack is not free. The Kyle T. Webster brush is also not free. you have to buy those brushes. I will say though, like, you know, if you don't have money to spend, the basic the brushes that Procreate comes with are great. Like, you know, they're really, really good. You don't need these extra brush sets. They're just really nice if you're very geeky about, you know, getting certain looks on your artwork, but they're not necessary, and you can do pretty much everything with the other brushes too. Okay, so here we are. And notice how nicely this brush adds like a little bit of paper texture to it. So you can see it feels like real watercolors, you know? Okay. Now I'm gonna do this. And I'm just gonna erase into this so that it's easier. We are hopefully making good progress. I want to finish this before the stream ends at 4. I do a proper Superman. There we go. Okay. Boom. I need a good yellow. That's probably the best yellow. One thing I'm going to complain about is the cards view. I keep accidentally deleting the names on the cards. And like, you know, it was yellow and I accidentally put like this word on it, you know. I know you can rename it, but I usually tap on the color with the pencil and it activates the renaming, which sucks. I hope there's a way to turn that off, but anyway. All right, so now the best part, the most fun part, is the skin tone. So let's do that really well. Hopefully I can give Clark Kent here, or Kal-El here, like a decent look. I'm trying to go in really light to start. I mean, remember with watercolors, it's always light to dark. I'm gonna go really light to start and then just move down. All right. Move down as I go. And I need a little bit of red here. Some extra red, because I think it always looks good when there's a little bit of blood showing in the ears and here on the nose. Not too much, not like he has a cold or anything. And then here on the knuckles. Okay. And then we're going to do some of this tech stuff. We'll do dark cyan blue. I should probably just tap with my finger. I keep doing it. Charlie, check out Kyle T. Webster's website. It's Kyle, Kyle T, Webster, like the Webster's Dictionary, .com, I think. And yeah, he has a whole bunch of brushes there. Lots of good stuff. Usually these brush makers have like free packs that you can buy samples of. So I would also check those, you know, before you actually spend money on these brushes. Not that they're super expensive. Usually brush sets are like 20 bucks, but you know, it could be worse. All right, so this is looking more or less in the right realm. I mean, we still have 15 minutes left. I think I went too fast on this one. I'm just very nervous right now, guys. First live stream, obviously. But I hope you're entertained. I mean, I love watching these live streams, so I've always wanted to do one of these, now I am doing a little bit of background work. And my thinking is he's on an alien ship, maybe like Brainiacs. And there is, it's sort of like this techno-organic bio stuff. So I'm trying to draw shapes and shadows in the background that mimic that techno-organic feel. Little bit of straight lines here and there, but they also curve. All right. Boom. This is where like the super obsessive part of me gets really into it. Like, I don't know if you guys ever do this, but do you ever just like doodle random shapes? Like, I used to do this a lot in high school, and I find myself whenever I get the chance to do it in an illustration, I go all out. You just like do hatch marks and like lines here and there, and you're just filling up space with shapes and figures, and it's so relaxing. Like, I could do that forever. I think when you're working on the figure, you have to be more attentive and careful not to like mess things up or whatever. But once you get to certain parts of the background, you're drawing natural things like waves or water, you can really go wild on just drawing whatever your hand wants to do, going with the feel of it, and getting a little abstract. So here, I'm going to try to imply the floor a bit by terminating the lines slightly off the ground so that we have a bit of a ground plane here, because, I think that's useful. It makes him feel like he's there. And I'm going to try to give him a bit of shadow. There we go. Just a little bit of shadow. And now I'm going to start throwing a secondary layer of shadows on Kal-El. To make it feel like he's, it's more homogeneous. The problem with coloring things in pieces is it can start to feel a little disjointed. So going over it again with one brush is usually like a good deal to help harmonize all the parts. All right, that's going to look really good. I'm going to do like a bit of harsher shadow on his face, because we are in a dire situation and worlds are in peril. Sorry, I got quiet. Yeah, I told you, this is when when you're doing background stuff, this is when I start to shut up and be like, oh, I'm in the zone, I love drawing backgrounds. Buildings. Well, once you've done all the perspective lines, the boring part is doing all the guidelines when you're doing buildings. But when you get past that, like it's just shape after shape after shape. It's so nice. I'm gonna do this 4-finger tap and flip it again just to double check that it looks okay. It looks alright. I'm not 100% happy with this, but it's a quick sketch, so I'm not gonna stress too hard about it. Okay. Superman. I also do that thing. Maybe some of you guys do this. Who here makes sound effects when they draw? Because sometimes I do that. It's like really childish, but I can't help it sometimes. Especially when you're alone, you gotta amuse yourself somehow, you know. Let's take some questions. We have 10 minutes left. Jam Luki says, "I love the forge you did." Thank you so much. I really enjoyed doing that. You know, drawing that forge image. I gotta finish the Inktober stuff. Honestly, I'm more than halfway through, but you know, I took a pause because it got really busy at work. But I'll get back to it soon. Alan Duong, how are you streaming with your iPad to YouTube? Love the nod to Neil Adams reference, but this feels somehow better to me. I am using a Windows program called APowerSoft. You know, I just found it yesterday while I was Googling. And to be honest, it's not doing great. So I'm gonna see if I can make it work better. But yeah, Google APowerSoft. Okay, let's double check. I hope this is looking good. Question from Midi. What other ink pens are good for digital comics besides the Studio Pen default brush in Procreate? So as I mentioned, I like this Inkbox pen from Kyle T. Webster. If he has a sample set, it's probably free there. That's probably his best inking pen. He has a whole bunch of others that are cool, but for most things, I like to use Too Smooth to be Forgotten. Koteri, I don't know if you guys follow him, but he's like one of the best like comics YouTuber, vlogger, Instagrammers, and he made his own set. I like the Ink Bleed Hard brush that he created. You can download that if you follow him on Patreon. I follow him for like $3 a month, and he gives you that for free. The True Grit Texture Supply company has a Procreate brush set called Debaser, and this brush is one of my favorites. This is called Smooth Inker. Let me get a nice black there. Boom. All right. Check this out. This is that line. Notice how it frays a little bit on the side. I love that about the debaser brush. It feels, like ink bleed on paper, which you want. I told you, I don't want my drawings to be too clean. I want it to feel a little rough and, very human, wherever possible. So like the debaser brush is one of my favorite things ever for inking. Check that out. And what else? I would say the default inking brushes. Where is Mercury? Oh, Mercury's right here. Okay, Mercury is a fantastic brush. Like, I like that a lot. See that? It's got a bit of bleed. It's got a bit of roughness to it. That's one of my favorite things. My only problem with Mercury is it doesn't get small enough sometimes for my liking. So I like it for like broad things, but for comics things, I I usually have to shift to something else in the end. And we're going on near done. I'm gonna do a global effect. So I'm gonna put a little red in here, as if the ship's alarm bells are going off. And we're gonna do that. And then for the rest of it, I'm gonna put I guess a dark cyan blue. No, I'm gonna do a cyan blue, this one. Boom. And what I'm gonna do with this, these are Superman colors, is I'm gonna go into adjustments. I'm gonna hit Gaussian blur and create a nice gradient between them. And then I'm gonna make sure that gradient is more even, so something like this. And then I'm gonna go into layer modes and I'm gonna shift it to color. Look at all the cool colors you can do. And then lower that a little bit. And that gives me kind of a nice sort of overlay look. Not too much though, but I like that there. I mean, you can also play with the, I don't know if you guys have ever played around with these layer styles. It's like my favorite thing to do on Photoshop, but some of them are really cool. I mean, this exclusion thing looks really cool. I think it would look really cool if it was under the line weights. There. That would look really cool. And then maybe come in with some white to finish it off. I think I would pop in a little watercolor white. So we'll use the watercolor max pack here, and then throw some white there, some white here, just enough here and there to give a highlight. Pop things forward a bit. All right. I think this is just about done. Like, 1 hour sketch, just quick, done and dirty. I could spend another couple hours on this, honestly, but I'll probably leave it for now. This is my first stream drawing. Let's sign it. I'm gonna use Inkbox, that first brush I was using, and throw it down here. Whoop. Make it black. Comment from Saavika. Sorry if I butchered your name. I personally stream with my iPad by hooking an Apple TV to an HDMI capture card and using AirPlay to screen mirror my iPad to the Apple TV, but it's a bit pricey to do. Yeah, I don't have an Apple TV. I have a dying 5-year-old PC that but I spent on the iPad, so so I guess it balances out. But yeah, I'm gonna figure out a really good system for this. I mean, worst comes to worst, I don't know. Would you guys mind if I just pointed the camera at the iPad and then you could see my hand like going over the screen? I don't know if I need to stream it all the time. Maybe it'd be fine if I just filmed myself, like I do in my other videos, right? Anyway. That should do it for this drawing. Thank you so much for joining me here, guys. Huge apologies for the technical difficulties at the start. I promise that I will work this out as we go along. But I'm really, really excited and happy to be able to stream. And I'm so happy that you guys get to join me for this. I really appreciate that. Um, and yeah, more videos on the way. Thank you so much. And yeah, have a great day. Enjoy your weekend. Keep drawing. Peace out. How do I stop this? I'm gonna stop. All right. And